how can we, I mean, I guess maybe I could see where we can maybe mandate it for optional activities, but I don't see how we can mandate it for students.
I think you're correct, sir.
Okay. So those last 4 lines on there are invalid?
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we can mandate it.
Can't
There's been
mandate.
some conversation
Okay.
around that. I think, and again, I do not mean to pass the buck, but I think, you know, if you were gonna go in that direction, that probably also merits a conversation with Mr. King.
Yeah.
But there have been some, as part of our conversation, as Dr. Meyer said on the night, that was mentioned as a possibility by VDH. But again, I think that's maybe you're on thinner ice and would want to speak with Mr. King.
Yeah. Okay.
And then certainly we would need to follow whatever OSHA comes down with. So they may say something like weekly testing for unvaccinated staff.
It's for
That's probably going
personnel.
to happen anyway.
I'm guessing, but I'm just throwing
I
out
do think
there.
it's important to note that the playbook that was shared with you guys, and it actually is still the same one that's posted on the website,
Right,
has been up for a little while. And as we said, even as of late as 6:40 this evening, they're making some pretty big changes to
Okay.
this program. And there has been a pretty strong encouragement for divisions to participate to meet a variety of needs.
right. So for instance, starting with symptomatic or quarantined individuals, I know that's not one in your list, is it? I mean, that's our most immediate need right now, correct?
I would say so, and that would be diagnostic testing. That
Right.
would be where we would want to use the diagnostic testing that comes along as part of the pooled surveillance testing program.
Right. Right. So then should we just wait to see what the OSHA regulations are
But
then?
OSHA would just refer to staff. We can
Personnel,
move
yeah.
forward and make decisions about students now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, it would be nice to have an okay for the diagnostic piece for those who want them, you know, for those who are sick and a parent who wants a test. Because another thing, the tests are expensive.
Yeah.
And so if a parent wants a test, we could have the ability to give them a test.
Right. They
It'd
wouldn't
be
have to
nice
go out and buy ones that
yeah,
are
it'd be
hard
nice
to
to
find.
get those 500 free tests in our possession.
Well,
So
and like
whoever
and like
wants
Marty
one.
said, there's an accountability component too there that I
I
think
really
is also
like that part.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
So, but then we can continue the conversation about, all right, who do we test moving forward, if anybody else? And so,
The document that was shared this evening through VDOE said this initial batch of diagnostic tests, if you will, they're gonna go ahead and allow school divisions to have that. But it does also state that after that initial batch, there does appear to be some expectation for pool testing
Sure.
if you would like to continue
Okay.
the diagnostic kits.
And would they consider unvaccinated staff pool testing? Or is that specific for the children?
Pool testing speaks to the way they do the test. Pool testing is PCR tests, not the rapid
Right.
antigen.
Right.
And they would basically take a group, and of course, I think in the playbook, I think it says 5 to 25. We were given a number more like 5 to 8
Okay.
in our conference on Thursday, and they would take samples, put them all in one test.
Right.
The test would be sent away, come back with the results, and if the results are negative, then everything's negative. If the results are positive, then you have to test each individual again to know who is positive.
Okay.
And that's one of the concerns that has really led VDOE to push very heavily to say, pool testing's nice, but what we really need right now is diagnostic.
Sure.
And that's what's led to these changes that have been announced today.
Okay. So for instance, if we wanted to say voluntary for our athletes, let's say, we pick that, then it would only be a handful of them, 5 to 8, right? And then if any of them test positive, then we have to go retest them all, and they'll get a diagnostic test.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the turnaround time on that?
On it's about a day and a half, 2 days, 3 days. It's a
Okay.
PCR test, so it does take
Right.
a little bit of time. It's not the rapid.
No, not, I didn't mean on the diagnostic part. I meant on the pool testing. How long does that take to come back to us to then get the
Correct.
diagnostic?
We would have the full testing within a couple days.
Okay.
And then they would intend to go right back, like if you had a positive result, they would come right behind and pull
Okay.
who's in that pool and test again,
Okay,
probably with diagnostics, so you get the
Sure.
result in 15 minutes.
okay, okay.
So if the results comes positive in the pool test, and then where those kids will be, they will be at home, I hope.
No,
No, ma'am,
No.
they would stay in school.
yeah,
That was part of the concern again with.
Well,
school testing.
I'm not sure how helpful that will be then.
That is exactly one of the concerns.
yeah,
Is with pool testing, if the pool comes back positive, the group stays in school.
Yeah.
until the
Till
diagnostic comes back.
individual Diagnostic testing
Yeah.
is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a concern shared by many people. And the conversation that we were a part of, indicated that a lot of school divisions said, we don't think we can get behind the pool testing, but we really need diagnostic.
Yeah,
And that's where you see the change that came
Yeah.
today.
right,
And with the diagnostic, then that we are of course relying, the parents at home, we're handling that well, provided the fact that they understand the language, they can follow the, and they have the internet that works. So those are gonna create some complications with the diagnostic testing.
Yes, ma'am. Far from perfect.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
yeah. So how does everyone feel to go ahead and, like Dr. Meyer asked, if they could go ahead and get permission to proceed with asking to do the
Diagnostic.
symptomatic or quarantined individuals? So that's our most immediate need.
So it'd still be voluntary. It would
Yeah.
still be, hey, parent, your kid's being sent home sick today because they have a fever. Would you like to have a test to take to make sure? So
I'm
it was-
fine with the diagnostic as long as it's voluntary and the parent consents and
Right.
they have the need for the test and we can provide that. I'm fine with that.
I agree, as long as it's voluntary, I'm
It's,
fine.
Yeah.
yeah, it's voluntary and
Yep.
yeah.
It's just to help families out.
I'm
'Cause
fine
those
with that.
tests are hard to find.
But this is, sorry, I just wanted a little more information because you brought up kind of a good point there that I think I may have had a misunderstanding of how they're doing this. So on the diagnostic side, it's still a PCR, is that correct?
Diagnostic is antigen.
So, okay, so on the diagnostic side, it's antigen, but on the screening side, it's a PCR?
Pool side.
Yes, sir.
So how does that square with what Dr. Bissell last time about, like, how do they handle maybe people who have had COVID before and may still have
Residual.
traces of the, what is it, RNA,
mRNA.
I think that's part of the conversation with the vendor. And again, I think it's important to note that this is a program that was rolled out or introduced end of last year, beginning of summer. And a lot's changed since then. And that's why I think you are also now beginning to see some changes in response to the most current situation. Back in the summer, I think many of us thought we were headed toward a much different school year
Sure,
than we're in
yeah.
right now. So they're having to do some work to kind of rebuild and be responsive. I mean, when you look at even the title of the program, a screening testing program for assurance, it's designed as a program to say, we are regularly testing people in our schools to help build that confidence to be in school. Of course, I think all school divisions are in a little bit different situation now in that we're back, we're in session, and we're experiencing cases, in a good number of cases based upon the Delta variant. So I think that's the rebuild you see. And I think, again, initially, this idea of PCR pooled testing was not very appealing to people, and there weren't many takers. And kind of the deal gets a little sweeter when there's diagnostic testing.
Yeah.
And now it's even more enticing to begin to say, we'll go ahead and give you the diagnostic testing in advance. But at some point, it really does still seem that they are going to ask for some version of regular screen pooled testing.
Sure.
And again, even if the board wanted to say, at a minimum, voluntary for students. If a parent wanted that for their child, sign up for it, and if not, then not. Then
Right.
you meet the participation criteria.
Yeah. So I think that we should probably answer that question together, because I do think they go together. Certainly from the program's point of view, they do. My view, especially for right now, is I think that, of course, we accept the diagnostic help, but I do think that with that, I think we should do the voluntary pool testing. I would support anything up through, for now anyway, I would support anything up through the voluntary for PK through 12. And I think it gets interesting depending on what the state does at other things later this year. A program like this could actually put us in a position where we, it just gives us more options, I guess, with how we want to move forward. If we have a testing program, for example, that's maybe mandated for whether it's athletes or whether it's, unvaccinated kids or something like that, I think it might offer us some other benefits that we don't necessarily see right now. So I think it's good to get our foot in the door, and I think it's good to get the maximum resources that we can. And so to me, that would be not just the diagnostics, but to also go ahead and take their help on the staff that they would give us to do any of the voluntary testing. I mean, I've been getting a lot of requests from parents about something like this. And I think if it's voluntary, I think there's a lot of parents, especially in the elementary schools, that will voluntarily do this. And I think that it could give us a lot of information that can be used to instill more confidence in the wider community, even in parents who don't necessarily opt into the program.
I think that's great. It sort of puts our toes in the water.
Yeah.
We start doing it, see what it looks like, what challenges we have doing it.
Right.
Just sort of create that, movement to test kids on a voluntary basis, whatever parents want their kids tested at this point. But sort of shows us how it can work. And then too, it proves to us that they're going to deliver what they said they're going to deliver too. They pretty much saying they'll do whatever we want.
But if we go all in, I think too, we might get more support,
Resources.
and more resources to make the whole thing work better, even the diagnostic side. So.
Okay, well, let's go around real quick. Goonan, are you good with the voluntary for pre-K through 12 and the diagnostic? You've already said diagnostic. Are you good with the voluntary pre-K through 12?
As long as it's completely
It
voluntary.
is.
Yeah.
You have to sign a consent. Okay. Chewy, you've already said. Dana, are you good with adding the
As long as it's
voluntary?
voluntary, parental consent, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Penny?
Yes, because I believe it will help answer some of the concerns that folks have about what's going on in the buildings,
Okay.
because we'll be able to have a tool that says, on a somewhat basis, this is what's going on.
Okay. There you go, guys. You've got your okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, our next item on the agenda is the clarification on board directives. During the superintendent's evaluation process, we provided a list of board directives. The administration is here tonight, Annie, to provide updates and request clarification regarding these directives. Okay.
Don't worry. We will wait. Got it. Thank you so much. So we are going to that was close. We are going to discuss this evening with you the directives that were shared in terms of things that the board wanted to see happening this year. And so we're going to share with you the steps that the leadership team has developed and provide any opportunity that you guys might want to, give us feedback at the end. So the board directives, I'll first start by reminding you of what they were. There were 10. The first was to implement year one priorities of the strategic plan and to provide regular updates regarding the process. And you'll note here on the presentation that we're going to put the role of the staff member who is responsible for each of these areas. So that would be the deputy superintendent. Number 2 is to ensure a process is in place for documentation of initiatives. That would also be deputy superintendent. Build more robust family communications regarding the variety of available curriculum options, especially at the high school level, director of secondary. Encourage more community partnerships, especially with local businesses, and use local businesses to advertise opportunities within MCPS, specifically curriculum options. That's the director of CTE and virtual learning. Evaluate the use of professional feedback companies and continue to gather stakeholder feedback during the 21-22 school year, but use consistent methods to gather this feedback and balance bias. Director of Communications and Community Engagement. Create an annual reevaluation of our facility needs. This reevaluation should include growth analysis, capacity, systems age, reinstate a regular facilities update that occurs at a minimum of every 6 months. Assistant superintendent. Continue to work in ensuring that the needs of all students are addressed. Specifically, we ask that the academic and career planning process reflect the desire of the student in addition to the student's potential. Director of CTE and virtual learning. Wait, I think I got that one wrong on there. I'm sorry. That should have been, that one's listed wrong, isn't it? When we changed it from today. Yeah, I apologize. We made a change today. That should say, I'm sorry, Director of Student Services and Safety. I think it does on the next slide. Create an equity dashboard that quickly shows representation, advanced placement classes, the gifted program, special education, CTE coursework, Director of Equity. Evaluate the gifted education program, including creative solutions for how all students can have their needs met, Director of Elementary. And conduct a post-pandemic analysis of the strategic plan and of MCPS operations, Deputy Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent. You will see that we have changed 10 because, as we have discussed, we are no longer we are not post-pandemic. So we are going to say an analysis throughout the pandemic. So we wanted to just take note to 2 of the directives are addressed already through the strategic plan, and for that reason, we'll be updating you on the process of those through the strategic plan reporting process. So the first, obviously, is to implement those year 1 priorities, and then the second being creating an annual reevaluation of our facility needs. So the first directive is implementing the year 1 priorities of strategic plan and providing regular updates regarding the process. So that responsibility will be for the deputy superintendent. Action plans, as you saw last year, many of these were already completed, which was creating the implementation plan, creating a monitoring tool, which I'll show you an example of in just a second, reviewing the monitoring tool and providing feedback to our reporting leads. So our reporting leads are the individuals who are responsible for each of those action plans. Division leads will update the monitoring document on an ongoing basis, currently happening now. Reviewing the monitoring tool with strategic plan team each month, and then monthly school board updates on strategic plan implementation. So 1 rolls right into 2 pretty easy. Process is in place for documentation of initiatives, and you can see here a sample of how we're doing that for the strategic plan specifically. So this looks just like those steps that you saw on the slide before it. But what we're doing with the strategic plan as well as these board directives is we have evidence of implementation. And what that is links to documents. They're not linked within here, but links to documents or whatever it is that individual has collected to show. So, for example, you would have linked there the step-by-step implementation plan from last year that was developed in October, and it was developed in October to run through the end of July, and that's when the plan began to be implemented. We've been monitoring our strategic plan on an ongoing basis. Our leads have already begun updating all of the evidence documents and the things that each team is working on. We also provide a starting date and a due date. And so what that starting date and due date allow us to do is it allows me to track month by month to make sure that we're on target with our plan. And so we have both a strategic plan and the board directives compiled into month-to-month plans. And so while I'm meeting with leadership team on the directives, and then separately we meet each month on the strategic plan with that team, which is about 34 members, we were able to say, hey, are we on track? Are we on track with the plan that we set into place? And it provides an easy monitoring tool for me. And then as we are completing each step of each plan, we put the completion date within the document. Number 3 is to build more robust family communication regarding the variety of available curriculum options, especially at the high school level. So this will be handled by the Director of Secondary. The first step is to connect the Program of Studies, the POS, to course selection process. To ensure next that the teachers of the Career Investigations course are reviewing both the middle school and high school plans of studies. That Career Investigations course began last year. It was a new course for us, and it's something actually that's really, really exciting. And so all students in middle school participate in that. Update and revise the academic and career planning nights to ensure effective communication is provided to all stakeholders. Promote the plan of study throughout the school year using multiple sources. And then create expectations for how counselors will use the academic career plan to guide course selection at all grade levels. So again, each of these action steps will have an evidence that's collected with them so that we are able to provide you that documentation as we review these. Number 4 is to encourage more community partnerships, especially with local businesses, and use local businesses to advertise opportunities within MCPS. Director of CTE and Virtual Learning. The action steps are to develop, publish, and send the stakeholder communication document, which highlights specific programs and opportunities within Montgomery County Public Schools. Those were sent out this summer to our community. I think they're a really great tool, and I actually keep mine on at the house on the table. I think it's really exciting to see. Document all currently active partnerships during the 21-22 school year and all new partnerships during the 21-22 school year. Encourage new partnerships at the division, CTE subject area, and teacher level throughout the school year. Continue to apply for grant funding that specifically requires and facilitates school, community, and business partnerships. One example of this is, I think you got the update this week, is we were awarded the innovation grant again this year, and so that is a partnership with Radford University, and we are doing some really exciting work there. I think we have 12 individuals who are participating in training in the area of IT. So that's a great partnership to celebrate for this year. Expand the work-based learning program by working with the 4 school-based coordinators to encourage students, to encourage them to gain work experience during high school. Number 5, evaluate the use of professional feedback companies and continue to gather stakeholder feedback during the 21-22 school year, but use consistent methods to gather this feedback and balance bias. Director of Communications and Community Engagement is responsible for this area. As you're aware, through a board update that we sent maybe a couple weeks ago, we did issue an RFP. That RFP has closed, and so now we are going to bring the committee together to review those RFPs. The next step would be selection of a vendor, and then to work with the board to determine what items may need feedback. You know, what would you like us to do? What type of areas do you specifically want feedback in? Number 6 is to create an annual reevaluation of our facilities needs. This reevaluation should include growth analysis, capacity, systems age, reinstate the regular facilities update that occurs at a minimum of 6 months. So something important to note here is because it was in the strategic plan, we had some action steps already in place. So you'll see those, but there's some additional ones because we wanted to make sure to update our technology plan at the same time. So the first is to implement the renovations and additions MCPS, VES that were previously approved by the school board and board of supervisors. I apologize that that's not capitalized, Board of Supervisors. Seek multiple forms of suggestions and priorities in the development and update of the master facilities plan. assessment of each school's traffic flow, staff and students, in development of pickup and drop-off safety procedures, conduct an analysis of systems, conduct growth and capacity analysis, explicitly support the development and expansion of pre-K programs to meet the overall population, identify members of the Technology Plan Steering Committee, create the technology plan consistent with state technology plan as required by law, and then the development of the Master Facilities Plan, which is updated annually with consideration for enrollment that will incorporate the technology plan and ensure that we have modern educational spaces and furnishing to ensure vibrant and functional learning environment. And then we will update that master facilities plan as the projects progress. Number 7 is to continue to work in ensuring that the needs of all students are addressed. Specifically, we ask that the academic and career planning process reflect the desires of the student in addition to the student's potential. And so that'll be the Director of Student Services and School Safety. Our action steps are to connect the plan of study to course selection process by creating one division sheet for all schools. Ensure that teachers of the Career Investigations course have each student do an interest inventory and career assessment based upon aptitude and preferences to guide the academic career plan process. Ensure that counselors are working with career investigation teachers to begin development of the academic and career plan. Create expectations for how counselors will use that plan to guide course selection. And then update and revise academic career plan nights to ensure effective communication to all stakeholders. Number 8 is to create an equity dashboard that quickly shows representation in areas such as advanced placement classes, the gifted program, the special education program, CTE coursework, and this will be the responsibility of the Director of Equity. And so the first step is to have a planning meeting. I believe they may have already started that process, to contact and work with the data department and testing to see where we can pull that data from, to create the dashboard, and then work with the communication director to publish the dashboard on the MCPS website. What you see there is an example from Albemarle County of the equity dashboard that they have on their website, and ours would not be exactly the same, but that provides you an example of kind of what that could look like. Number 9 is to evaluate the gifted education program, including creating how all students can have their needs met. Director of Elementary will oversee this process. Those action steps are to create a one-page brief to summarize the independent consultant's review from 2016, to create a one-page brief to summarize the VDOE technical review from the 1920 school year. And then we would have an independent consultant, the independent consultant come back in and do a review of the gifted program to tell us how we were doing in terms of the findings from 2016 and to give additional recommendations. We would report those findings to the board and then update the plan to include the recommendations from the independent consultant as the board would like. Number 10 is to conduct an analysis of things learned, which could improve the strategic plan and MCPS operations. And so that'll be both the assistant superintendent and deputy superintendent. And those action steps include first, that we have been and will continue to work to identify and implement successful strategies based upon what we have learned so far, to gather feedback from stakeholders through advisory committee work. The strategic planning team will review the strategic plan and provide recommendations. HR, instruction, and operations departments will identify strategies employed during the pandemic which positively impacted employees, and then we'll provide a report of findings and recommendations. So our next steps, this is September, so we're providing the plan to you based upon your feedback today. We will make adjustments to our plans, and then we'll continue with the implementation of the action steps. In January, an update on the progress on the board directives will be provided during the work session. And then in June, the superintendent and leadership team will provide the final report on board directives through the superintendent's evaluation process.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to make any comments?
just want to be clear about something. So we as a board evaluate the superintendent, not the staff. So it seems like the line's getting kind of mixed here. I just want to make sure that the staff is not thinking when the board is evaluating the superintendent that the staff is being evaluated. Correct?
Well, I mean, in some ways, it all comes the same in terms of you give me these directives. These directives are within the purview of our staff, and then they are actually performing these. I'm overseeing all of what they're doing, it's their responsibility to get these directives done, and I will oversee those. And I've always said my evaluation is their evaluation because we work as a team and work together.
Well, that's not how I see it as a board member, and I want to make it clear to staff. When I'm doing the superintendent's evaluation, I'm evaluating the superintendent, and it is more than just on the directives that we see here. So I want to be very clear on that. I understand you all do the work.
Sure.
And I appreciate all the work that you do, but let's not mix lines here as to what the board does as far as the superintendent's evaluation.
Well, you all gave these to me as the directives, and you all expect me to carry these out. I carried it out with my team, and we're going to work together to carry these out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know.
I think I would agree, generally speaking, with what Penny's saying, and certainly from a review point of view, you're the one that gets to review your staff, and I guess they review their staff and so on. But when it comes to the directives for the division, I tend to agree with you that these are things that the board wants the division to go through, go in, and so that requires your staff to play a role. I think maybe, Penny, you can clarify on your own, I'm sure, but sometimes I don't know if maybe what she's saying is sometimes there's directives that maybe were more like directives just for you versus directives for the division. But everything I see here, I think, is more of a division directive. So I don't know if that's...
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I understand it works as a whole, but I just want to make it clear when the board does the superintendent's evaluation, and quite frankly, if it gets quite lengthy and carried out like it did this year, that's not a reflection on the staff. That's a reflection on what we as a board are doing, okay? In the superintendent's evaluation, not the evaluation of the staff and the work that they do. Anybody who looks at Montgomery County can see the work that we're doing and the awards that we are given for the innovative thinking and programs that we're doing. That's not an issue. So I just want to make sure that the staff is not being pulled into a conversation about the superintendent's evaluation.
So when we,
Other than you doing your jobs and then he evaluates you.
is it okay for me to respond on that? Just, if I didn't word it well, I apologize for that. We certainly look at it through that lens. Each of us has our goals and our directives. So in terms of the way we get that work done, it would certainly be, through each of those directors. But I'll work hard to make sure the team doesn't feel that way, and to make sure, they're here, so they're certainly hearing you communicate that. But my hope would be they wouldn't feel that I have expressed that to them, that this is just, here's some tasks that you have for this year. We've got the strategic plan tasks lined out for us as well. If there is a different way or a different time you'd like us to present that, the final findings, we could do that in a different way as well.
I think this is a great document. It's great to look to see how, things are going to be done. And who's gonna be responsible. But again, I don't want the superintendent's evaluation to be tied to staff. Other than, you all do the work, we
Sure.
know that. But there's more to the evaluation than
Yes.
just this.
Oh, sure.
Sure, and I don't think that I didn't say that your evaluation of me would just entail these 10 directives. I would expect there to be more. I mean, there's more in the other 7 standards than just these 10 directives. But you've asked me to move forward with these 10 directives, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do it as a team.
And I'll be done with their evaluations before he'll be done with mine, and I'll be done with theirs before you all complete, because we have to have them done in June, or July. So they don't really, if that helps, they don't hinge on each other. I complete those separately for my team.
Yeah, no, I was not thinking that at all.
Great.
So I have a few points of input on some of this stuff.
Sure.
I'm going to start with the specific stuff that I've got, and then maybe just a couple overall things.
Sure.
So number 3 and number 7, in my mind anyway, had some overlap. I think when did we came up with these directives, was it back in May, Board, that we talked about these? So it has been a number of months, and forgive me if some of this stuff is fuzzy. And quite frankly, I would.
Merge them.
What's that?
Merge them. I'm sorry. I was going to say merge 3 and 7.
Oh, no. What I was going to say is I would have almost liked if, if after the evaluation we maybe had done this at least maybe with you and Tommy and Mark, just to maybe clarify some of that stuff, just to maybe even in a closed session or something. I don't know. Well, I don't know if we could do it in a closed session, but maybe in a work session or something like that to talk about, to help focus, some of the
Sure.
conclusions that we come to, because we get in these meetings and they take hours, and sometimes you pound something out and maybe some back and forth. I mean, we're
Sure.
doing that here. We're doing it, and but it's in a very formal way, and you guys are kind of taking it and putting a lot of work into it and stuff, which is great. And some of the stuff, most of the stuff probably needs it, but if there's clarification and things, if there's
And if we-
opportunities, for example, to join like number 3 and number 7, maybe we could have
Sure.
done that. I just can't remember exactly why we ended up with those 2 things, but this is a comment that probably applies to both of them. But in my mind, because I think I was one of the people that brought this stuff, having had in recent memory, a 9th grader and now a middle schooler kind of going through this, I see what a lot of the suggestions and action steps that you want to take have to do with, let's communicate. We have this thing, let's communicate it to people in other ways, right? We're gonna, we're gonna do it on these the career and planning nights, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. And one thing that I would like to say about that is I think we need better. In my field, we call it collateral. We need better written stuff. We need better introductions, summaries, other collateral that explains these various tracks and kind of cuts through the confusion in really easy to digest information. I mean, I looked at Carl's, what's the phrase, opus something,
The plit is that big one.
yeah, and it's just too much to, it's fine when you're as a student going, okay, this is what I want to do. Now I got to go hunt and find for the courses that I really want to pursue. But as a parent, I come home, from work, and it's like, oh, I've got all this stuff to and I'm, maybe it's there and I just didn't see it, or maybe it needs to be presented in a different way. I don't know. But if it's not there, I think that's kind of what I'm going after. Kind of in between. Got a lot of detail, and then there's this kind of very high level, like, you can do CTE, you can do this.
Maybe
like,
some flow charts or things that show different.
Yeah, but it'd
in a
be
different way.
interesting to see if you guys can develop some collateral that would kind of cut through maybe some of the confusion, that would maybe summarize some things at a relatively high level, or maybe an in-between level or something like that. So,
Sure.
And that probably applies to 7, which I think was career and what was it? Yeah, is it up there?
Yeah, that was the academic career planning process.
So that's one. On number 6, this is the facilities need. This is something else that
Yes.
that I definitely was interested in here too, and I think that one thing that I wrote down is that we need to have a review reassessment component to some of this stuff. Because sometimes we get, we make assumptions on things. We say, this area is going to grow, or we're going to do, this is going to happen, and things don't always line up perfectly. So it would be interesting sometimes to kind of get some feedback. And I've been saying this before, but how good is our forecasting? And if it's really good, that I think it's good to highlight that. Say, 5 years ago, we predicted that we would be at this level, on enrollment at these schools, and here's where we are now, right? To just basically say, look, we're not that far off. So when you're giving me, here's what the next 5 years is going to look like, we can either go in with more confidence or start asking why we're off if we're really off. And then the other thing that I think is important about this is, I wrote this down again for number 6. I think to me
You said
this
number
is one
4.
of the most,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Was that the number you?
Number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
still on number 6. It's and this came up earlier, right, when we were talking about Christiansburg High School. It's the big picture view of the money available versus the money needs versus the timetable, and that's something that that I think that's an opportunity for you guys to maybe even get creative in how we present that to the public, right? Because this is the crux of I think where we're at and where we're going to be in the next years, right? And we have to make a case to the community. We have to make a case to the Board of Supervisors. They're the ones holding the purse strings, but really, they are all just like us. I'm not in charge of this whole thing. The public is, right, through me.
Right.
And the same thing with the Board of Supervisors. So, to me, that's kind of an important piece, is to talk about the planning of what's next in 5 or 10 years, to make sure that number one, to keep it on the forefront of the community's mind, right, and the Board of Supervisors' mind, that this is what's coming. But number 2, I think just for our own planning and decision making, to be able to have our eyes on not just the very next project, but the 2 and 3 and 4 projects down the road to the level that's appropriate, obviously. And then let's see. Oh yeah, and then I'm gonna years again and go to number 7. And one thing that is interesting is, so my one of my kids is in middle school now, taking the career investigations course, right? Or maybe took it last year. But it's interesting. It's cool to have them be able to look at all those different things. But she's also 6th grade, 7th grade, right? It's so one thing I was going to suggest on this, and maybe it's already in there, but the reevaluation of is it the ACP?
Academic
At
career
least
plan.
one time, maybe in early high school or
It should be
something. Does
every
that
year.
already happen?
Actually, it should be every year.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that we should.
Okay.
Yeah, we should be reviewing those with students every year. And it should
Well, I
be-
didn't
it
want
sh-
to.
Yeah, it should be fluid. It should be, something that's okay to change, and kids know it's okay to change. And
Absolutely.
Because kids change, as you know, in
Exactly.
their interest, and it's just sort of that roadmap that letting kids know that they can move. And this is sort of new to us, and so we're just sort of getting our arms wrapped around the entire thing, and probably I guess this year's 8th graders will be the first ones that really are in a good place that we want them to be in terms of trying to figure it out and moving forward. And of course this year too, the current 7th graders have the opportunity to actually be in a class all year, too, which hopefully will be even better. And so yeah, that's the hope. But yeah, we want this something that's living, breathing, and can change and move forward. And so.
And then the one last thing of input is more of an overall piece of input, and it's just coming from me, not from the whole board necessarily, but probably other board members would maybe even agree to some point. I realize, this is a lot. When we used to do board goals, I feel like we used to come up with like 5 or 6 things,
It is
and then we were doing the strategic plan, which was supposed to cover that, and now we've got these other 10 things on top. So
We would echo that.
yeah, so I guess I'm just, number one, I want to acknowledge that, and maybe we board members need to have conversations about this, but I guess I would also, when you tell me that there's overlap, I like that, right? That's like, okay, that's good, right? So I think as much as possible, if we can work these things into the strategic plan as much as possible, I think it'd be good. Some of these directives I think are hopefully relatively small. And if they're turning out to be something much bigger than they need to be, then I think it's okay for you guys to come back to us, whether you come back, whether individuals like Carl or Mark want to come back to us, or Dr. Meyer wants to just come bring it back to us or whatever. I mean, I think it's okay to continue to have a conversation about this. But I also think it's okay to push back on things if it just doesn't seem like it's helping, or if it's stuff that we've already done, or, at least push back to get clarity, because then I don't,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this to be something where you guys have to go off and just do this whole other parallel thing on top of the strategic plan stuff that we're doing.
I would say, several of the steps here are things we are already doing. It's just maybe you're not aware of them because there's so much, if for you guys to know everything we do, you'd have to be at work you'd have to be there every day. So some of this is already either in place or has been in place. There are certainly things that are new, but there are quite a few of them that are things that we have already done or are not in the works to work on. But I appreciate you saying that. I'm sure everybody else does, because
I mean, and I think the last piece of that for me too is that there are things that we are doing that we have been doing in the past, that aren't on our list, or maybe not on our radar or whatever, and that we don't need to be doing anymore. I mean, I feel like once or twice a year I bring up this thing, but maybe we need to do, at least at a local level, just your own very little uninitiatives, and take stock of the things that are taking up time and saying, which of these things do I just not need to be doing anymore so that I can focus on these other things? So, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that that's a lot of stuff on y'all's plate, and I, for one, am more than happy to work with you guys to help prioritize things so that we can do a good job at the things that are really important. And if there's things that are, not as important or that might have to wait or whatever, I mean, I think as long as the board's okay with that, I think we can have a conversation. So I don't want it to be too much for you guys, right? So.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else?
So, Mark, I absolutely agree with you as far as the facilities and a long-term plan. Because in 2006, the Board of Supervisors and this board sat down and went over what projects each board felt they needed to do and when we could do that. And that was when we had money that they could actually see where things were going. And then we had a roof collapse, we had the economy, the bottom fall out of it, which put the county in a very difficult situation as far as borrowing money and being able to do anything. So would love to sit down and have that conversation and work through a plan so that we can have that in front of the community like it was then. And that's why I am so very, very determined and passionate that it's now Christiansburg's time, because Christiansburg kept getting pushed back from that plan in 2006, what was going to be next for this school district. So I would love to see how we do that, and so that the community can see the funds that will be available through the paying down of debt and revenue, and hopefully things don't happen like COVID, the economy, and roofs that throw everything off tilt.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? All right, the next item on our agenda is board member reports.
Oh, Mike, I didn't have that on the agenda. Board member reports.
Oh, I'm
is not
sorry.
on
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do them,
these
Skip.
meetings.
yeah.
Sorry.
Not ready for
Sorry, we
board
forgot to
member.
take that out of the script. Whoops. All right, our next item on the agenda is unfinished business. There are currently no matters of unfinished business. New business. Are there any matters of new business?
I had one, I can't remember it.
I'm sorry, what, Penny?
Oh, yes. So the PBIS
Uh-huh,
program that Montgomery County uses,
yes.
I would like to have a presentation to the board so that we understand exactly, get a review as to what the program is, the theory behind it, and how it may have changed since we first agreed to do this several years ago.
Okay, is the rest of the board okay with that?
Yeah, I think it'd be,
Yeah?
it'd be good. I
Okay.
don't, are you requesting it for the next meeting or just at some point in the future when it's,
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, any announcements and information? I wanted to say that the Montgomery County Education Foundation has closed their grant cycle. So we're going to be working through reviewing and scoring those grants. So hopefully we will have responses out to those who submitted very soon. I'm very excited about all the ones we got. Anybody else have any announcements? Okay. You can see the next upcoming meetings. Our next meeting is October 5th in this room. Our next order of business is closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss 2 personnel matters and 1 student matter as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia?
So move.
second?
All those
Can
in
I
favor?
make
Aye.
a point here?
Sure.
So for closed session, we also have the personnel report and a religious exemption so that staff might get to go home and not have to wait till after a closed session?
Yes.
Is this something we can address now unless there's something you needed to let us know about?
For there is one personnel matter I need to discuss with you.
Yeah.
If that's
And also,
okay.
Yeah, but staff doesn't have to stay.
Yes.
I mean, support staff doesn't have to stay
I'll stay.
Okay,
once we go into closed session.
okay. As long as,
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I think I already.
Oh,
moved.
sorry.
sorry there.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We
Hold
are
on.
now in closed session.
Hold on a second. We still need to discuss the hearings in this closed session from the meeting prior. Does that need,
Are they gonna,
Right.
we
I
didn't get
thought
to,
that was
we're
just,
just voting afterwards, not.
no, we never got a chance to discuss it
Right.
because we're late, so
Yeah.
that needs to be part of this closed session as well.
We didn't have
The,
time.
discuss
it
3
just a
student matters
continuation
in
from
that, it's a
the other?
continuation.
and then we don't do this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let's amend this so that we get it right, because when we certify, we have to make sure we certify that we've only discussed certain things.
Motion to add 3 student matters.
And Jamie, you seconded? Are you both good with that? Okay.
Time would be
Mark
next week
seconded.
to look at the,
Looks like Mark said.
Oh, Mark, are you good with that? Okay. All right, so we're good, Brenda? We're now in closed session. Thank you, guys. Much
that's why I was
appreciated.
like, you won't
I
get
think